Hello, welcome to today's webinar. Today we'll be discussing how to power tech talent hiring at scale. I'm Mike Walsh, Director of Product Marketing at Lever. And we all know that today is an incredibly tight market, job market, especially for those with specialized skill sets in engineering and analytics. And this tight labor market affects more than just tech companies. It impacts anybody who's looking to hire specialized labor in finance, healthcare, retail, whatever. If you're looking to hire specialized technical talent to power their business, then this webinar is for you. We will also be hosting a short Q&A after the session, so feel free to put in your questions into the chat bar until then, and we'll get to them after our quick discussion here today. Joining me in this discussion is Jen Rettig, Head of Recruiting at Looker, as well as Blaine Shields, the Manager of Customer Success at HackerRank. Blaine and I will discuss a little bit about how Lever and HackerRank work together to power collaborative recruiting and hiring. And then Jen's going to follow up and discuss the real challenges that they faced at Looker and the solutions that they developed to break through and crush their hiring goals. So, given the skill shortages and tight labor market that we hear about on a daily basis, it's safe to say that we're living in a candidate-driven world. Employers no longer have all the power when it comes to employment. In fact, 73% of candidates are always passively looking for a job, according to LinkedIn data. So these candidates aren't actively applying, but they are keeping an eye out for greater opportunities that are out there. And just as important, candidates expect a higher level of service when going through the interview process. You know, the black box of submitting an application through a career page just doesn't work anymore, especially when you're trying to hire the best talent out there. They expect more. So all of these dynamics put more pressure on the recruiting team and others involved in the hiring process to really move with speed and purpose in the hiring process and stand out to candidates. Unfortunately, we know that time is on short supply for pretty much everyone. And recruiting is far too often a manually intensive process. And this only gets harder with multiple systems that don't talk to each other. So when you have to move between your ATS or an offline spreadsheet or your email or your calendar to manage interviews, you're going to have communication and information flow failures because workflow is just going to break down as you move in between systems. Additionally, recruiting can't be done in isolation. We know that it requires collaborating effectively with hiring managers and interviewers and others who have full-time day jobs to really participate in the recruiting process and provide timely feedback so you can keep that recruiting process moving forward. And so this brings us to Lever and HackerRank and how we work together. And what you're seeing right now is our two mission statements, which actually kind of jive pretty well with each other. And so for Lever, our mission is really to scale and share hiring through effortless collaboration. And I'll let Blaine talk about what HackerRank.
Thanks, Mike. Hey, everyone, this is Blaine from HackerRank. So as Mike was alluding to, our missions are very aligned. With HackerRank, our goal is to help match every developer with the right job. So within the HackerRank platform, essentially you have the ability to keep that recruiting process very efficient. We allow recruiters and hiring managers to create what are called coding challenges and initiate those to candidates during the hiring process. Every company will administer those tests at different times in the interview process, but in theory, you're getting extra data points and insight into that candidate skill set as opposed to just simply looking at the degree. So to date, HackerRank has completed just over 21 million assessments. So from our customer base, we've seen tons of participation, and we're constantly adding data points to the interview process for recruiters to make more educated decisions on whether they should move forward with a candidate or pass on a particular candidate. Our platform is language agnostic, which means we allow candidates to code in whichever language they prefer. So depending on the domain or the skill set that your organization is focused on, HackerRank can easily support that. And you can actually initiate those invites and challenges from the Lever platform as a recruiter. So as Mike was alluding to a little earlier, we really want to keep the process very efficient where recruiters only have to live within one single platform. And so by doing this and this integration, we essentially shave off a lot of time on the back end for moving candidates through the interview process. Just to highlight a couple of customers that are currently working with our platforms. These range from very small businesses to large enterprise global corporations. But essentially, at some point in the interview funnel, they are initiating a HackerRank challenge. So it could happen very early on in the process. Perhaps if it's a university hire, every candidate typically looks the same on paper. And so how do you actually differentiate between those particular candidates? By issuing them an assessment or a test, you actually get, again, that extra insight into the skill set. Do they have the ability to code, or do they have the ability to work within your organization right when they get the job, as opposed to taking a couple of months to ramp up? And so with the integration, we try and keep that process very seamless and keep the process moving at a kind of a high velocity. So if we look at a typical hiring funnel, this is something that every company will have their own iterations on, but typically there's either inbound applications or you're having to source a particular candidate. There's some sort of cultural phone screen that usually occurs. So depending on again, the type of candidate, whether it's junior versus senior, inbound versus sourced, maybe you found them on LinkedIn, there's going to be different workflows that you take every candidate through. And so Lever has the ability to scale from looking from all the way from the sourcing aspect all the way through from time to hire. And essentially where HackerRank will plug in will really depend on the type of candidate and the workflow that you choose. But at each stage of the funnel, the goal is to tighten the funnel and make sure you're keeping the process very efficient and ensure you're only talking with the top candidates for that particular role or for that particular domain. I'm going to go ahead and hand it over here to Jen with Looker, and she's going to highlight a couple of examples of how it's helped her organization scale and move forward.
Hey, thanks, Blaine. I'm happy to be here, everyone. So what is Looker? Looker is a complete data platform that offers data analytics and business insights to every department. But really, what is Looker? Looker is truly the people who work here. So I'll give you a little high level about the company itself. Looker has over 1,000 customers today. We are almost at 400 employees. We've received almost 180 million in funding. We have over 6 offices in 3 different countries, and are in major partnerships with all of the companies that you work with today: Google, Amazon, Microsoft, and a very, very experienced leadership team. But how did we get here? So it was 150 people here at Looker when I arrived well over a year ago, and there was a recruiting team of 2. So a recruiting team of 2 have gotten them to 150. Now the recruiting team has grown today to 4, but the key thing is that the hiring managers are truly the recruiters here at Looker. And we have 3 key recruiting principles. One is that everyone is a recruiter, every hire makes Looker better, and every candidate counts. So once we established those principles over a year and a half ago, we needed solutions that the hiring managers wanted to use and that helped us drive towards those principles. And Lever was the first system that we chose and launched in August of last year. So before making that choice, though, as I had said, in 2016, our engineering recruiting process had stopped. It was at a complete and dead stop. There was no real process. There was no agreement on how to screen developers, mainly because we didn't have a platform that the team liked or that they actually wanted to use. So because we didn't have that agreed upon technical screen or format or even scoring, plenty of poor quality candidates got through to on-site interviews that shouldn't have, ultimately wasting many engineering hours, and it was a complete inefficient use of their time. We were taking up to over 40 hours a week of our engineering managers' time collectively, not to mention all of the interviewers who were taking many hours a day on on-site interviews. And they needed to be spending time coding and building out our product versus talking to unqualified candidates. We also needed to increase our velocity and get some of the engineers hired. The product and the company depended on our ability to hire engineering. So ultimately, it was important for us that we had one integrated platform that allowed us to have not only structured interviews with a consistent and in-system screening platform. So the decision to go with Lever and then HackerRank were actually driven and then confirmed by our hiring managers and not by the recruiting team. So today, what does it look like with both Lever and HackerRank in use at Looker? Our engineering team is able to screen consistently and streamline their funnel and their process. So not only are we using Lever plus HackerRank for experienced hires in engineering, but we are utilizing the integration for all of our college recruiting. So when we visit on campus, we drive all of our intern and new grad applicants to apply online. Once they do, we send them our college challenge, and this test helps us get to the right, most motivated students, meaning we sort of put the burden on them to say, hey, I want to work at Looker, and here's what I can do. So we went from hundreds and hundreds of student resumes on paper that we would have had to scroll through to actually an online ability to filter for the best and brightest and ultimately hire for our intern program. And for all of the roles, the quality of our candidates that come on site is increased. And we can just take a quick glance at our interview feedback reports and Lever to show us that across all of our technical teams. It's also enabled the growth of Looker to over 400 employees. So our hiring velocity has increased from 150 to 400 employees in just over a year. We have hired twice as many Lookers in the first half of 2017 as we did in all of 2016. So it's really hard for us to even think about how this process worked before Lever and HackerRank, but the true success story is how it is spread to all technical roles at Looker, not just for engineering. So all technical roles at Looker today, so all of our data analyst roles, sales engineers, professional services consultants, they all start with a HackerRank challenge. We send out 25 or more tests per week across all of engineering and all of those roles in customer success, saving on average of about 12 hours per week per hiring manager that they were spending either on the phone screening or grading tests. We love our customers at Looker, and the customer success team is the largest organization in the company. So all of these technical roles in customer success are now screening for SQL skills with HackerRank, from our entry-level customer support analysts to sales engineers and on up to very experienced roles. For example, the customer support analyst role. So this is just a 1 year at a glance look. When I started, we had less than 10 people in this role. So the team of our customer support team that does live chat with all of our customers was about 10 people. It's important to note that this is the entry point into Looker for all of the data people, all of those people who want to be data analysts, data scientists. This is the role where they start. And it's our feeder role to many groups across the company. These Lookers know the product and the customers inside and out. So in the past year, we have been able to send out over 400 SQL tests via HackerRank. Those results coming back into Lever. We had 254 of those tests completed, which means actually only 60% of people who applied for the role that were sent the test actually took the test. Again, saving us time on the recruiting team and with the hiring managers. So 150 just withdrew from the process by not taking the test. 50 of them had qualifying scores or better. And within that, we were able to hire 15 people into this role. Again, starting with only 10 people on the team, we've more than doubled the size of that team in a year. And this is not something we could have done without the testing and HackerRank and all of the information living within the candidate profile inside of Lever. So ultimately, I take, not only growing our teams and hiring to 400 people, with this integration as a key sign of success, but I look to our CTO and co-founder, Lloyd Tabb, who, by the way, still interviews all technical candidates here at Looker. And he is very, very happy with who he meets today. And he says to us, to the whole team, hey, we are now seeing the candidates that we are supposed to be seeing here at Looker.